Welcome back, everyone. The International Disability Alliance, IDA, the government of Germany and the government of Jordan hosted a third Global Disability Summit from the 2nd to the 3rd of April in Berlin, gathering more than 4,500 participants from 100 countries. The summit resulted in 800 new commitments from governments, development actors, private sector, and civil society. At events, the International Labour Organization has renewed its call for stronger global efforts to ensure disability inclusion in the labour market, urging coordinated action from governments, employers, and civil society to guarantee equal opportunities and decent work for persons with disabilities. ILO's Deputy Director General, Celeste Drake, says ensuring that people with disabilities have access to equal opportunities and decent work doesn't happen by accident. It requires dedicated and sustained action. Globally, the ILO noted that persons with disabilities make up an estimated 1 billion people, around 15% of the population, but remain disproportionately excluded from the workforce. Tonight, I speak with someone who was live at that event, Dr. Epelle, founder CEO TAF Africa, on the key takeaways and benefit for Nigerian PWDs, and how important is it that we domesticate these some of these policies. Dr. Epelle, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Jumoke. Good to see you, and I'm happy to be with you.
Thank you. Right. So this summit, which happens only once every 3 years, represents a key opportunity to catalyze the political prioritization needed to advance health equity for persons with disabilities. Concerned stakeholders, come together to discuss and make commitments for a disability-inclusive nation. As someone who has been advancing the cause of persons with disabilities here in Nigeria, what are your major takeaways from that summit?
Well, first of all, I want to thank your management, especially my good friend Babajide, for the opportunity to do a post-mortem of the conference, which happened last week. There's a whole lot of takeaways that we can discuss on this program that probably time will not allow us to delve deeper. I was privileged to lead the Nigerian delegation, and we were the second largest contingent to the conference. And there was a whole lot. The conference happens every 2 years. This year, the third in a row was organized by the German and Jordanian government. And I was privileged to be the openings keynote speaker, and as well as the closing keynote speaker, as well as having a side event. Nigeria was at the front and center of the conference. The project that we just launched, which is called Access to Work Scheme, was the center of the entire conference. So there was a lot of high-level meetings. I was privileged to be with the Minister of State for Humanitarian, and we met with a number of high-level government, German government officials, including the Prince of Jordan. We met with the Foreign Minister. We met with the Minister for Economic Development of Germany, and several other ministers from Bahamas, from Malta, from Kenya, from across the globe, like you rightly reported, were well over 100 countries that was represented, including the IDA, who is the big spender, and the one that is responsible for the conference. So it was an eye-opener for a lot of Nigerian contingent. We met with many manufacturers, whether it's wheelchair, to devices, to provision of technology. It was a huge resource base for the Nigerian contingent and several other countries and continents that were represented in the conference. I think I want to also use this opportunity to thank the German embassy in Nigeria, because I traveled with over 22 people. Not one person was denied visa. Everyone was given visa.
All right, then.
As much as, as long as I signed on to it, and everybody's back. So we travel with the legislators, we travel with the executive arm. It was a well-represented, robust representation of Nigeria. And I was proud to talk about what was happening in Nigeria till this day.
All right, Dr. Epelle.
You know, the only person I missed was you. You weren't there.
All right, Dr. Epelle, let's talk about the Amman-Berlin Declaration, which, I'm aware is the significant outcome of the GDS 2025. According to reports, this declaration calls for a 15% target in endorsing countries and organizations striving to ensure that at least 15% of international development programs being implemented at the country level pursue disability inclusion as an objective. From your own perspective, what are these objectives?
Well, the objective stems from, political participation to employability, to access to business processes, to participation of the private sector, not only in employing persons with disability, but also ease of doing business and the procurement of some of these organizations. There were notable organizations that have their presence and footprint in Nigeria that participated and made commitment that persons with disability will gain employment in their establishment. I think the Nigerian Disability Act stipulates that not less than 5%, and I want to use this opportunity to correct the impression. The Disability Act didn't say that it's 5% employment opportunity for persons with disability. He said not less than 5%. So you can go as much as 15 to 20% and so on and so forth. So it was a great declaration. And as an organization, this evening I had transmitted an email to one of our funding partners. We're going to do a postmortem of what we experienced in Berlin and how we can translate that to a national strategy that will be implemented in the course of our engagement with government.
All right. Well, Dr. Epelle, according to reports, the disability wage gap is even more pronounced for women. ILO data showed that only 33.5% of people with severe disabilities worldwide receive adequate social protection, including access to disability benefits. I'm wondering, what is the impact of these on PWDs?
Well, accessibility is something that is very dear to me. I hope I got your question. You're talking about accessibility for persons with disabilities. Is that right? Disability
wage gap.
Okay. All right. So we are looking at that, especially with Ministry of Labor and even NLC, because prior to this, we were trying to structure some sort of a policy on employability of persons with disability. Yes, a lot of us that are very qualified, we're still caught up with the issues of not being properly paid or even given the position that we deserve. So it's a policy issue, it's an advocacy issue that we're looking at. It's also a media issue, and I'm glad that you brought this up because who knows, the policymakers and the executive arm and the legislative arm are listening to us, there's a need to ensure that there is no gap between what we are paid and what the, so to speak, able-bodied people earn. And in terms of position, because it's not about our disability, it's about our capacity, it's about our competence, it's about our commitment. And we do have people that are qualified and sometimes overqualified that can occupy this position and be paid handsomely like every other person. And we will continue to push the needle of advocacy to ensure that we get to the place that we have and we deserve. And this is where we also need the media houses that have been supportive to the cause of disability inclusion. And your organization is one of those media that we're counting on. You know, and I'm glad that I have friends like you and Babajide, my good friend, that will always give us the opportunity to express ourselves and call out those that should help us to help us, not out of sympathy, but out of empathy.
All right, Dr. Epelle, you know, beyond advocacy, beyond policy, in trying to, what more can be done in trying to get disability inclusive disaster risk reduction right? What are the options available for us as a country?
Well, I think what we need to do, and I'm not trying to postulate and breathe it on the neck of policymakers and policy implementers. But what we need to really do is to ensure that persons with disability are always on the table, at the table, where decisions are made, where projects are designed. Their input is required. They have the ability to tell you what is possible and what is not possible. And so engagement is a summary of what I'm trying to say. The community needs to be engaged. Those who have the prerequisite knowledge needs to be engaged. There is no point trying to do something for people that you don't know them and they don't know what you're doing. So engagement is important. Implementation is important. Evaluation is important. Sustainability is very key. And getting us involved in every strata of the society. I want to see, Jumoke, I want to see the likes of yours with disability do what you do. And I'm your fan. You do what you do with passion, with professionalism. We want to see persons with disability in that shoe. We want to see them as celebrities that you are. And I've always said to you, and I know you're committed to that, in mentoring persons with disability, we need to see them evolve. We need to see them live purposefully. We need to see them gain the competence that you have and the capacity that you exude. And as long as we keep putting them at the backside of the borders, we will not make progress. So to make progress, as a country, we need to recognize the potentials of persons with disability and give them the opportunity they deserve, not just because they have disability, but because they have the competence and the commitment to do what they want to do, are ultimately the character to actually evolve and become what God has created them to be.
And to add to that, Dr. Epelle, I know how important it is to gather data on disaster impact on persons with disabilities if we're to achieve significant results. I mean, we've had this conversation before now, but with this just concluded summit, how crucial is data in all of this? Do you agree with me that if we begin collecting data on disaster impact on persons with disabilities now, in a few years from now, this will throw up rich insights that can help refine our strategies for persons with disabilities?
Absolutely. I mean, there is understatement, and that's a very intelligent question, Jumoke. The current minister for humanitarian and poverty reduction, Professor Ntewe, is very, from our discussion, he seems to be very knowledgeable and seems to know what to do. But whether he has the resources to do the things that he wants to do is another thing that I don't know, But given the resources, given the environment, given the capacity, I believe that he should be able to give us accurate data from the social register. I believe that from the template that he has rolled out, he should be able to do that. And so data is life. Data is the engine room of development. And if we must get it right, then we must get the right data, because what we have right now is just mere guesstimates. We say 35 million, we say 30 million. It's their guesstimates, and that's why the international community don't take us serious. We need to have accurate, verifiable, evidence-based data that can be used in planning, in execution, in sustainability. Data is the game changer. If we have the right data, then we will have the right intervention. So, aptly put, data is the life wire of true disability inclusion. And until we get this data, we won't make much progress. And I want to believe that in my time, we will get the accurate, verifiable, evidence-driven data based on Washington's set of questions, which is the parameter for accurate data. Although things are evolving, there are more methodologies that can be used to get accurate data. But we need to get the accurate data of persons with disability disaggregated. That means we can say, this is the number of persons with albinism, this is the number of persons who are blind, this is the number of persons who are deaf, this is the number of persons who are Down syndrome. And I think also, Jumoke, there's a need for us to open up the space and admit other forms of disability, invisible disability that we don't see. There's a need for these group of people that have not been captured within the disability space to be captured and recognized, and intervention be brought their way. Our brothers and sisters with leprosy, are struggling to be recognized.
Absolutely, Dr. Epelle. And I remember that my last conversation with you and Honorable Bashir Daudu, we talked about assistive technologies for persons with disabilities in Nigeria, because realistically, the last decade has seen great progress in assistive technologies for persons with disabilities, especially in developed countries. You talk about rapid advances in fields such as AI, neurosciences and synthetic biology, promise an even brighter future. But access to these technologies is highly unequal between men and women, between developing and developed countries, between rural and urban areas, and so on. So how do we as a country take a proactive policy stance to address these inequalities?
Well, when it comes to assistive technology and access to assistive technology, by the way, we do have a policy on assistive technology developed, I think, by one arm of the Clinton Foundation. But having a policy is one thing, but also having the assistive technology is another thing. But the problem with us is we don't just need assistive technology, we need adaptable assistive technology. Okay. If we have technology, so
what is the difference, Dr. Epelle?
Well, the difference is that you can have a technology. I mean, the difference is in your hand, holding a phone that you can't use. The difference is in having appliances that you don't know how to use it. It's probably not conversant with the environment that we found ourselves. So we need to have adaptive, something that is made for us, and oftentimes by us, so that we can effectively utilize them. It's like half of the phones in the hands of people are underutilized because we don't know all of the functionalities. So there's a need for us to have what works within our environment so that it can be utilized and it will meet the needs of the people who needs them. You have a state-of-the-art studio, and the personnel that runs all of your cameras and on the screens and the things that you use to make sure that you provide quality broadcasting, the people that runs it understand how it functions. So it's one thing to provide assistive technology and that we don't know the functionalities. It becomes absolutely useless in our hands. So there's a need to have an adaptive technology that is usable, that is user-friendly, that is accessible. That's the kind of assistive technology we're looking for. And there's also a need for government to have incentive for manufacturers of this assistive technology that are adaptable within our environment and usable by the people that is made for, so that it will be affordable. Affordability is very key if we must make progress in terms of access to assistive technology. Some of them should actually be recognized as a must-have for our country so that the people that needs it will use it.
Before I let you go tonight, domesticating some of these policies that have advanced the course of PWDs in developed countries, how hard is it to replicate such in this part of the world?
Not as difficult as the word difficult. The very heartwarming knowledge is the fact that Nigeria has done very well on a global scene and on global scene and on a global scale in terms of policies and frameworks, in terms of the political will. I think the government of Nigeria have done well, and it's also commendable to say that the government of Bola Tinubu continued. There's been a continuum in terms of following the policies and the framework and some measure of implementation.
Right.
I've never seen anyone who doesn't want to implement. The problem is there are no tangible resources that complements all of the will. So take, for instance, the budget of the Commission for Persons with Disability, is very grossly inadequate. So there has to be that intentionality to ensure that we do implement some of these beautiful, laudable policies and ideologies.
All right, Dr. Epelle, thank you so much for joining us and for finding time to have this conversation with us. We appreciate you and welcome back. Thank you.